Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the podcast, The Breakdown with BreakyCPK, coming at you. Really excited to be here, and hopefully you guys are as well, as we got plenty of show to go over here over the next couple of hours. So welcome to the podcast, guys. What is episode number 2? For those that are tuning in perhaps for the first time, basically this podcast, it's myself, kind of just talking a lot about what's been happening lately in the Dota 2 scene, giving some opinion pieces on said topics throughout the Dota 2 scene, as well as bringing on some guests for certain discussion topics throughout the show. So it's not going to be only me, but it's going to be kind of a mix. And also on top of that, it also includes your involvement. Yes, you guys tuning in. I'm looking at you right now tuning in. No, but you at home tuning in, I'm going to be doing polls throughout the podcast. It's good to get some reaction from the viewers for that. But on top of that, I will also be doing a call-in segment later on where you get the chance to actually join me on the podcast via a call-in of sorts. It's actually using Discord to talk about any of the topics that we went over today or whatever you may want to just simply discuss in the end. So looking forward to having some fun today. In fact, I'm going to link the Discord and chat to join me on the call-in segment, which, again, won't be until later on in the show. But if you are interested in for later on, I just linked the Discord in my chat there. You type !Discord if you need the link again. That leads you to my channel, and then just whisper me on Discord with what topic you wanted to talk about. And actually, I'll eventually respond to you with pulling you in and putting some or getting some good discussion going. So. Anyways, I'm so excited to be here. Obviously, again, what is episode number 2 of the Breakdown podcast? So that's kind of a brief overview, though, of what to expect. We had a very successful show last week, and obviously looking forward to continue that momentum. As far as what we're going to talk about today, again, there's a couple of things definitely to go over. We're going to be going over the WESG event that just wrapped up as of last night, the Nations Cup, whatever you want to call it. Really unique kind of format event, and going to go over some opinions on that event, whether or not, it should even be considered a top-tier event, or if it maybe is just under that, how the event went overall, and kind of breaking that down a little bit. Also, going to be talking about... We're actually going to be having a couple of interview guests on, including Suns fan will be joining us later on in the show around 4 o'clock or so, in about an hour from now. He's going to be going over, obviously, his team DC there and how things are going with him in general, but also what he thinks about DC and certain topics concerning that team, both with their recent ESL 1 Genting victory as well as upcoming events such as the Dota Pit event that will be happening this weekend, and that's another part we're going to talk about, of course, previewing that event. So, I figured the first thing that I wanted to kick off this show with, the first topic even, would be, let me switch here real quickly, would be the DAC. The DAC, the Dota 2 Asia Championships. The Dota 2 Asian Championships, the announcement for it took place, and also on top of that, there, of course, was a qualifier, actually, that took place. But the Dota 2 Asian Championships, now, this event, this happened a couple of years ago. It had over a $3 million prize pool, actually, that Evil Geniuses ended up winning in the end. I forget the other teams and how they finished. In fact, we can check it real quickly right here. It was Evil Geniuses, and then Vici Gaming, and then Team Secret were the top 3. As far as how they finished. So, again, that was a couple of years ago, but they're bringing it back here for this year round. This will take place in the later part of March. March 28th is when the group stages start, and then April 1st to the 4th is when the main event portion happens. Now, there's no prize pool to be announced. There's no prize pool yet, but a little bit of information came out, including the dates, including the Chinese qualifiers, which actually did just wrap up, and we'll get to that in just a second. But before we do, one topic I definitely wanted to go over was the invited teams. It also announced the 4 invited teams that's ultimately going to be joining all 12 teams at this event, and how that would be playing out here. So the 4 teams were Evil Geniuses, Wings Gaming, OG, and Newbie. Now, obviously, right off the bat, you look at these 4 teams, and it's like, oh, okay, really not a whole lot of like, oh, what were they thinking with this team kind of deal. Again, we're talking about what potentially could be a pretty massive prize. So like I said, last event was $3 million prize pool. A lot of that was due to crowdfunding, so I kind of wonder how this one's going to shape up as well. I think the base prize pool last summer was only like $125,000 if I'm not mistaken. It really wasn't that high. So Again, going to be interesting to see what it turns out to be this time around. But the point is, this is a big event with a lot of money on the line and going to be one of the first bigger events post 7.0 patch. These are the 4 teams that were invited. So you kind of look through them. My first reaction, and obviously I saw this earlier in the week, but my first reaction now kind of going back to that was, you got Newbie. Obviously, they've had a lot of successes of late in the Chinese region. They had a little bit of a lapse at the Boston Major, you could argue. But ESL1 Genting, of course, they did fantastic, ultimately losing to DC in the finals, but doing very well there. And then on top of that, just overall, one of the most sound, if not the most sound, Chinese team currently. So no really questions there. OG, they just won the Boston Major. What else more do you have to say? This is a really hype team right now. I don't think it's really anyone could argue the fact that they got invited. We have Wings Gaming, another team that's like, it's hard to argue against them. I know that some of their results lately, including the Boston Major, including the Northern Arena, even prior to – oh, no, they won the Northern. What am I saying? There's another event prior – wasn't it the Summit, I believe it was, actually, where they had a pretty lapse of a performance there. I'm actually double-checking real – no, they won the Summit. Never mind. That's right. So never mind on that. God, I could have sworn they did a, recently. I guess they got 3rd and 4th in the China Top 2016 event, which really wasn't that big of a deal. Anyways, point is, Wings Gaming, not really a whole lot of concern in terms of them being invited. Now, the one team that there is a little bit of an argument for, though, and for me personally, I feel justified in arguing it, is Evil Geniuses. Now, as a team individually, without giving another team that should have been in their place, it's hard to say, like, oh, well, why not Evil Geniuses? They've done pretty well. They got 3rd and 4th at the Boston Major. In fact, I pulled up their team Wikipedia right here. I just wanted to make sure I have it here. Yeah. So we got even their Wikipedia page, but point is they did win the China Top 2016 on top of that, which again was technically the first big LAN post 7.0, but it happened literally right after. It was only 4 teams, so it's hard to really suggest that, oh, with that victory they're deserving, but it was a win nonetheless. They finished, of course, 3rd, 4th at the Boston Major. The Summit, they even got 3rd place. So, overall, they've been having decent results. You even look back at the TI6 on top of that, of course, where they finished 3rd place as well. But the one team that I definitely think has a justifiable argument is Digital Chaos. Digital Chaos has had some very good results themselves lately, including the very similar nope, that's the wrong screen right there. Including the very similar finish at the Boston Major, obviously, where they finished 3rd, 4th. But the most noticeably is the most recent result is the ESL1 Genting victory, where they won 3-2 over Newbie, a very, very strong team, and they got through quite the challenge in that event in general, and quite the grind. And it was an event that took place after a little bit of time now. Teams have kind of been getting used to 7.0. It's what many consider to be the first major LAN post 7.0. So you got that. Now, obviously, they had a poor sum of 6 result, but then on top of that, they got 2nd place compared to the 3rd of EG of the International 2016. So there's a couple of these results, again, especially with the ESL1 Genting on top of that. I really think there's a strong argument to be made that it could have been DC over Evil Geniuses. I'm not going to sit here and say they absolutely got it wrong, but I do feel like Digital Chaos maybe got a little bit screwed out here as far as an opportunity to get invited. Now, there could be a couple of factors coming into play. One, ESL1 Genting did literally just wrap up a couple of days before these announcements came out. So perhaps that had something to do with it. Perhaps they had already decided what they were going to do, and ultimately, it was just too late in terms of the ESL1 Genting event happening. The result from that wasn't necessarily in time for them to decide the invited teams. I think, with how far off the event is, I think they could have waited at least till this event to finish to really help determine. So I find it hard to believe that is the case, but there is that argument, that counter-argument even. The other is that Evil Geniuses was the previous event's victor. They won the last DAC, which, like I said, happened, though, 2 years ago. So, and it's changed. The team's changed a lot. In fact, I believe it's Sumail and Universe are the only 2 players that are the same 2 players. We're looking at ultimately a completely different roster. So to justify it with, well, they're the defending champions, I don't think that works here in this case. If it happened last year, Maybe. But this happened 2 years ago. It's not like it happened last year. It just happened to be the last time they threw on this event. So I don't necessarily think that the idea of like, oh, well, they're defending their title really works here when it happened 2 years ago. So in the end, those are kind of my arguments for DC in terms of they should have had the invite. Now, this really sets up an interesting thing, too, where you got the qualifiers bound to be happening here, of course, for the American region. E.g., they got the invite. They don't have to worry about that. DC, on the other hand, they're not going to have to go through this gauntlet. And by the way, there's only one spot for the American qualifiers. That's another thing to kind of talk about with this event here real quickly. There was actually 4 spots for Chinese teams. I know it's the Dota 2 Asian Championships, but really 4 Chinese teams compared to 1 from each of these other regions? I feel like they could have maybe done 2 European at least, and maybe 2 American, especially with the American scene getting so much stronger as of late, and been fine with just having 2 Chinese qualifying teams, especially since 2 of the invited teams are also Chinese teams, but it's their event, and again, it is perhaps has a lot to do with the Dota 2 Asian Championships that they really want to make that theme the case, so thus inviting all these Asian teams. But the point goes back to the American qualifiers, only 1 team qualifying. And there's actually some pretty good competition as of late in the American region. It doesn't have the info for it just yet. But the point is, we're looking at teams like Complexity, NP. We're looking at these new teams, such as Wanted, of course, Peter Pan Dam's new team with Kyo, Chessie, and crew. And then you got Team Onyx, another team that just broke onto the scene recently. Mason, Boba, those guys over there. And, who knows how they're going to do it. Then we got up-and-coming teams, such as Team Freedom, such as Doo-Wop. These are teams that are all of a sudden, with only 1 spot on the line, sure, DC should be the favorite team, and they should be taking it. But is it fair to them that they all of a sudden have to go through this gauntlet when they're literally coming off a victory of the biggest LAN post 7.00? Again, I don't necessarily think it is, and I got to feel that they're probably a little bit upset about that. I am going to be having Suns fan on a little bit later on in the podcast, so of course that's one of the many questions I do plan to bring up with him and get his take on it, whether or not he truly is disappointed or if he has another take on it. But again, those are the 4 invited teams. DC is going to have to go through the grind that is the American qualifiers, and we'll see when information comes from that. So that leads us to our next part here that I wanted to talk about concerning the Dota 2 Asian Championships. I'm going to take a swig of water here real quick. There we go. Anyways, the Chinese region took place as far as the Dota 2 Asian Championships, and we have our 4 qualified teams already. So they got right into these qualifiers, man. It makes me kind of wonder what the deal is with the other regions and why they weren't able to get right into them, but maybe overlapping events, who knows. But the point is, they got right into these ones, and we now know our 4 teams that are joining the invited teams from the Chinese region. Now, before we get too much into this, there was a team here in this event that drew a lot of attention for good reason. And that is this one right here, Team Newbie Boss. In fact, I got a nice little image to show it off a little easier for on the eyes here. Newbie Boss, this team was announced last week to compete in this event and perhaps upcoming events. It sounds like that they could potentially be a team that maybe sticks around for a little bit. But how about Xiao 8? He retired last week only to join this team 2 days later. So he's kind of the Brett Favre of the Dota 2 scene right now, where he likes to suggest that he's retiring, and then it's all of a sudden, never mind. Something came up that I feel like playing again. He is kind of back to his core role as well, his one role that he is participating as. So I know that that's something that he was maybe excited for as well. But again, this is kind of similar to Team Wanted in the sense that it's not necessarily going to be a very over-the-top serious team. It's going to be a little bit more of a fun team that's going to attempt to qualify for set events such as this one. So this team, so you got Xiao 8, you got Schwan. Obviously, he's an old-school player with a lot of history. He's obviously lost some weight. He's got more healthy. It's good to see. Definitely following that boat myself, so I can respect somebody for sure that's going through that grind. So Schwan, again, a fantastic and old-school player. Ferrari 430, another player that's very experienced when it comes to the Dota 2 scene, especially in the Chinese region. Now, these are a couple of the interesting ones. Zai9, now apparently Zai9 is the CEO or owner. I don't know exactly what the title is, but he's the boss man. He's the boss man of Newbie, apparently. And he was the one that kind of wanted to form this team and bring it together with some recent information that came out. And he's told about just kind of having fun. Apparently, he's a solid player himself. He's not like a legitimate top-tier pro, but you surround him with fantastic players and experience, anyone could be pretty damn good. But he's playing support for them. But this leads us into our last one here. Axe, AXX, Axe over there. She, yes, I said she, in case you haven't heard by now, this is a female player participating on this team. Now, obviously there's a lot of initial reactions that people understandably have when they hear she. It's like, wait, what? What is this? Oh, this must be a joke team. No, not necessarily the case. She apparently actually has over 7,000 MMR in the Chinese region. She's apparently a popular streamer from my understanding, and she's a legitimate player. She plays the offlane role, at least she was with this team. And, I got to actually watch a couple of the matches, and it was fun to watch. They actually had to play in the additional qualifiers to get to the actual qualifiers, and that kind of leads us into this right here. And they won it. They won 2-0 against both their opponents, and thus they qualified for the qualifiers. Now, ultimately, they fell short, as we see here in the qualifiers, but, they split 3 series and then, went 0-2 in the others. But overall, not a horrible performance, considering this team was literally just put together. But going back to Axe, I wanted to kind of keep on this topic for a little bit here and kind of have some discussion around it. So I know this can be a little bit, the idea of a female player being successful in an esports scene, let alone Dota 2, it can be a little, I guess, I don't know if funny is the word that I'm looking for, but it can really take people off guard. Like, wait a second, no, there's no female players that play in games such as Dota 2 at the top level or competitive level. But this is an example of, well, maybe that thinking should start to go another way. Maybe we should start opening up the doors for more female players to get those opportunities to join these teams and thus participate. Why can't they play on similar levels that other players play on, when it comes to participating at a high level? This isn't necessarily a physically demanding sport in the sense of traditional sports. There's reasons why traditional sports we have splits between female and male players. A lot of it comes down to the physical components, and the strength or whatever it may be. And that's why there's so much of a split when it comes to traditional sports. However, when it comes to esports, that necessarily doesn't exist. And you got to kind of wonder, why maybe we aren't seeing more and more female pros at the level. But to say the least, I was really excited to hear about this female player participating for Newbie Boss. And apparently the chance to be the first female player to ever attain to LAN of a major level, at least, in the Dota 2 competitive scene. It actually has never been done before. Now, as we know now, they did fall short, but the potential is still there, and perhaps this could open up the doors for more opportunity for said player. But with that all said, I actually nope, that's the wrong didn't mean to do that there. There we go. I actually did want to bring on my first guest here. Happens to be a female herself, and actually is very involved in the Dota 2 scene. Of course, a caster for Moonduck Television, and a solid player herself, I'm pretty sure. So let me go ahead and give her a call here. Bring her on if she is ready to go. There we go.
Hi.
Hey, Annie, can you hear me? Oh, wait.
Yep.
There we go.
I can hear.
Wait a second. You probably hear echo, don't you?
I don't.
You don't? You're good. Okay.
I'm good.
We're good. Okay, cool. I like it. Anyways, welcome to the show, Annie. I'm happy to have you here.
Hi. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. So I don't know if you've been tuning in. I think you may have been tuning in a little bit.
Yeah.
To the show here.
Definitely a lot of strong feelings on what's going on here. And I want to stress the importance of her being picked up on a co-ed team. And I think that's super important because there have been not necessarily gimmicky, but like heavily sponsored, heavily funded all-female teams that aren't competing in the same leagues or on the same tier as male teams. And I don't think that does anything for integration in the sport. I think it's so phenomenal that she chose to go and play with other guys on a guys team and compete with other guys teams. Like, she's an actual Dota player, which is exactly what she is.
Well, let's start from the beginning right here. So, you're yourself being a female player. It's, Dota 2 is notoriously known for being a very hostile scene. It's a very unforgiving game in a lot of ways. Do you feel that even more in your case, or you feel like you're pretty much with everyone else when it comes to it as far as a player goes?
Well, my personal experience differs because, again, the Eastern and Western scenes are different, so I can't speak for Axe's experience, but my experience, yeah, definitely. I think there's, in Dota, there's a lot of name calling. There's a lot of, you get made fun of stuff. I slept with your mom, haha, like stupid stuff like that. But if you're a female, that's easily identifiable by your voice or by the fact that you're streaming and you are a known name. So someone can go after something that's true. Someone can say like, oh, you're just a bitch, or they can say very sexist things that, get to you in a different way than you're bad or I slept with your mom.
Yeah. So when you heard it, so it sounds like that you were overall pretty excited about the idea, not only that she's going with the team, but, playing with the big boys or whatever you want to call it. Because you brought up an interesting point there. I want to touch on that real quickly, too, is that there are female-only leagues. Counter-Strike Go, especially, I believe they have a couple of female-only leagues out there. There's some top teams in the female competitive scene. How do you feel about those? And do you feel like those should be a thing, or do you feel those hurt, in the case of female gamers?
I honestly feel like it hurts it. I think if you play Dota, you should play Dota. I don't think you have to play Dota as a female. I don't think you have to market yourself as a female and compete with other females. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to hold your own with guys. And I think it's one of those, you can see it from the point of view of, like making a safe space and wanting to compete with people like you and people that you have things in common with. But I think it does a disservice to the community. I think it segregates you from the community and reinforces that there is something defining about being a woman. You don't belong in the regular community.
Yeah. So it's safe to say that, and I was kind of talking about as before you came on here, that traditional sports, obviously they have their difference. The physical aspect seems to come into play there. But when it comes to esports, that doesn't necessarily exist. I mean, do you feel like there's any reason why maybe females can't compete with the boys or the guys, the males, when it comes to esports, or is there really nothing that's there?
I mean, there's people that are going to go into like minute scientific differences and go into like reaction time and, muscle twitch time and stuff like that. But no, there's no reason why women can't compete with guys, why a woman can't have a higher MMR than a guy can. Like, I know plenty of high 5K, 6K women, and I know plenty of, 1K dudes. It's not a biological
Yes.
thing. So then I think, again, playing an all-female team segregates women that may otherwise have fantastic potential in the competitive scene to kind of, go play with your own kind.
Are you disappointed almost that there hasn't been more, or is this a case of like maybe this is the door opening and you look forward to perhaps more female players being introduced into the scene as a result of this?
I mean, I think Dota involves a really heavy time commitment. It involves really thick skin, regardless of gender. So I think it just attracts fewer females. But again, there is no reason why a woman hasn't been in the pro scene so far. There's no rules forbidding it. There's no, as far as I know, no organizations directly forbidding it. I think it's about time, and I'm really glad Axe is stepping up because she's a phenomenal player. She's 7K. She knows what's up. She's not there to be a generic female, which I think is a great distinction. Like, she's not, put on a panel as, hair and makeup and boobs and giggling. Like, she actually knows what she's doing and she belongs here.
Yeah, and I think it honestly, and again, this is part of the whole sexist idea kind of coming out to an extent, but it maybe surprised a lot of people too that she wasn't a support player. It's like, wait, she's an off-lane player. There's the idea that a female can at least be a support player. No, she was playing off-lane, and I believe that's her traditional role and stuff. So I found that interesting too when it came to seeing about this play. So did you know about Axe before this, as far as her as a player?
I had known there was like a 7K, very high skill Chinese female player. I just didn't know that she was interested in the competitive scene. I think it's great she is. I knew her as a streamer, but I had never watched any of her games or anything.
What about yourself? Is that something that you've ever aspired to be, a competitive player? I mean,
Oh, I'm not at that tier at all. I mean, I played on
no?
my college team with like a ragtag band of hooligans, but it was never anything that was going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Are you a competitive person in general as far as like sports and stuff?
Definitely. Yeah, I used to be really into sports and stuff. So definitely get that competitive itch satisfied by Dota.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, did you watch the DAC at all? By the way, the qualifiers there.
I did watch the cast of acts, and
Okay.
definitely some interesting moments there.
Okay. So, well, okay. Well, that's actually a good transition because there was a sticking to this topic. There was a cast that did take place
Mhm.
by a caster over there that was kind of reinforcing this idea again of being a little bit sexist and having some comments that he was making during the broadcast that were like he was referring to basically her as girl all the time.
Yeah.
Rather than this player, the name of the player, the hero referring to it as girl. What is your take on that? Do you feel like that's hurting the cause? I think it's safe to say, but
I don't want to make this about crucifying Cyclops because I think he went. It was going to be a joke. Just no one was able to give him that like on air like stop. It's not great anymore. So I think that's mistake has been apologized for. But going back to the greater point, I think Lurka summed it up really, really well in a tweet that she said. She said, quote, call her by her tag or her hero like you do other players. Don't just call her the girl. Because that's true. Like, no one wants to be segregated from their team just because of the way they are. She was playing fine. And then I was, like, reading through the thread on Reddit about that. And there were people saying, even during the chat, if she died or if she misplayed, like, they'd say, oh, it's because it's a girl, or like, be nice. It's just a girl. She's trying her best. It's like, no, hold her to the same standards as any other player because she is any other player.
Yeah. And it's there's one thing about drawing that line of as a caster in that case too, I can understand because myself, if I happen to be casting Axe, I'd want to promote that idea that she is a female player, and I think that part of it's fine, of course. That yes, this is a female player, trying to break into the scene and represent the female competitive scene, but you got to find that line of addressing it over and over again, like you said, when she happens to die or whatever. Oh, and the female goes down, and the girl goes down, and because she's a girl, obviously that's not the case in the end, but it really is going to reinforce that horrible stereotype that does exist. So, and yeah, reading through that Reddit post, that was bad. I mean, there's just kind of shows that unfortunately. Long way to go for some people, but
I think, contradicting your point, I don't even think it's worth highlighting more than once. I think, you do your introduction, you give the backstory on each player, but when it comes down to it, all 10 players are playing Dota, and that's what casters are supposed to talk about. You're not supposed to go and, praise her over and over again for being a girl. That's just what she does.
Yeah. So, yeah, you really, promote it once or twice, make a point of it, and then move on as if she is just a typical player. Which,
I mean, you think of any other minority in Dota. You think of, black people. You think of Native American people. If there's a black person playing Dota, you're not going to keep calling them that. It's just who they are.
Like
they're here to play Dota.
Off,
they're here to do their job. And that's just what she was doing. And I think it's really unfair that now, because it is so new, it is so novel, she's being fit into this box of she is the female player.
Were you disappointed that they didn't qualify in the end, or do you still think it was a good step?
I think it was a great step. I mean, qualify or not, she came in there. She played at the same level as all her teammates. She did a great job. I think she did the community proud, and she's got a bright future ahead of her.
Do you know of any other female players that are out there that you could see breaking into the scene?
I know of a couple that are, high 5K, like trying to break into that 6K, but I think especially in the Western scene and NA, I don't think there's a real big place for that because there are just so many extremely high-skilled male individuals that, I think play at a better level than the women I know.
All right.
And I think that's what it should come down to. It should come down to Dota's skill and teamwork and being able to get the job done, win the Dota game, rather than we need to have a set amount of minorities. We need to have the token girl because, like, the token girl is easily replaceable. I like Axe because she's so good at what she does.
Yeah. Happens to be able to back it up as well with that ranking, and again, even though I got the chance to watch a fair amount of the match myself, so definitely making some solid plays. So
just one more thing is that I saw a lot of comments on the thread and a lot of tweets afterwards that said something along of like she did well despite being a female.
Yeah.
Oh, that got under my skin so much because being female is not a disability in Dota. Like, despite being female, like, I'd expect that, like, she did well despite being blind or despite having no fingers. Like, being female does not control your ability.
How did she do this?
It's that one really got to me.
Yeah, no, and I can understand that completely. And the unfortunate thing about that too, it's like people that make comments like that, it's like I don't even think they realize what they're suggesting. It's like they mean good intentions, right? But the way that they're saying it and they're coming across as you're clearly making a point of, it's maybe you should think a little bit more when
Yeah.
making such
There
comments
were
on
a
how you
couple
word it.
tweets and Reddit posts like verbatim, she did well despite being female. And it's like, that's so detrimental to the scene.
Yeah. Well, what was I going to bring up? Oh, yeah, so about the DAC, kind of just a different topic before we wrap up this here, but DC, I was kind of talking about Team DC not being one of the invited teams. EG getting that over them, I think you could safely argue. How do you feel about that? Do you think DC deserved it, or is it all EG?
I think DC have been performing phenomenally, but I think you kind of got to respect EG is that, when you think NA team, like my mind snaps to EG. I think that, flag, I think bleed blue. So I think it does represent the NA region perhaps a little better than DC does. But I do think DC are deserving of an invite. And I was listening to the show earlier and your suggestion of, having fewer Chinese teams to allow for 2 NA teams or 2 EU teams might be the way to go on that.
That seems a little ridiculous to me. But hey, it's not my tournament. I'm not the one putting up the money, so
yeah. I mean, I don't have super strong feelings. I think DC are deserving of an invite, but I mean, EG didn't do anything wrong. Like They're still top dogs. They're still doing great.
Yeah, it's nothing against EG. I think that's a clear point to make. It's more against the tournament organization and who they chose to invite. But EG, hey, they deserve it in the end. It's not like they didn't by any means. You enjoying 7.0, by the way? You enjoying the patch?
I really am. I think it's definitely got its ups and downs. I think it's made the game pretty fun, but I think I don't know. There's something that's getting a little bit stale about being able to get to 25 and complete your build almost every single game.
Yeah.
Like some of the fun of Dota is that you don't always get to do that. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be toggled a little bit.
Well, you play Meepo, you get 25 in 20 minutes, it feels like. So.
Yeah, I was playing Meepo. There was like a Meepo player on my team that had like 16 minutes, level 25, like 4 or 5 items. It's like, that's not really that fun, though. That's just farm simulator.
So dumb. All right, Annie, I really do appreciate you joining me here and talking about some different stuff here, but especially about the axe situation. Any shout-outs, anything else you want to say?
Just thanks so much, man, for having me on. Shout out to any, female Dota players out there. I think it's important that you don't, you play Dota. You make that the forefront of what you do and don't try to identify yourself as only a female because everyone can be more than that.
Yeah. Very well said. Very well said, Andrew. I really do appreciate it. And say hi to Mott from the stream here.
Hi, Mott.
The back. He looks very invested. He's probably playing World of Warcraft, let's be honest.
Yeah, like you're 100% spot on.
Seems like he does a lot of that. All right, thanks again, Andrew. I really do appreciate it.
Bye.
All right, so that's Annie Joy joining us. Showing up the Skype. Oh my God. Yeah, that was good though. That was awesome. That was very well said on her part, and I'm glad. It's good to get a female perspective on, obviously, in a case like that. Because I know this isn't a topic that a lot of people are maybe comfortable even talking about for whatever reason, but and it's not the most popular topic to talk about, but I think it's very important. I really do think it is, and it's so easy for some people to sit here and say it's like, oh, that's just him trying to be a white knight, or trying to get the females on his side and stuff. It's like, no, this is just being a decent human being. That's really what it comes down to in the end. And there really is no reason why female players cannot participate on the same, if not even higher level than a lot of male players out there. So I look forward to Axe kind of being the forefront of at least the Dota 2 scene. Obviously, there's been other significant female players that have actually done decent in other games as well. So, esports as a whole, it's still very young. It is still very young. It's in that wild west phase, and there's always going to be more and more progress to be made as time moves on here. So, good discussion there. Really, again, happy to have Annie Joy on, and very well said on her part. So that leads us though into. Let's continue talking about the DAC real quickly here. I wanted to make sure we actually go over what happened in the qualifiers before we move on here. So these are the qualifiers. So it's kind of hinting at a little bit earlier. So how this worked, there was 6 teams, in each group. The top team advanced on. They automatically qualified. And then the next 2, they went to a playoff stage, a 14 playoff, where they competed the top 2 from that, then also advanced on. So Invictus Gaming, they went undefeated. They are looking hot. They're going to the Dota Pit LAN this weekend, actually, which, again, we'll preview that a little bit later on. But you got to think that they are looking really good and going to be feeling very good going into that event, especially since they've been dropping lately. You know, their brother, sister team, whatever you want to call it, excuse me, IG Vitality here. IG Vitality's actually been the one having a little bit better success. They're the ones that qualify for the Star Ladder. They're the ones that did better at the or they qualified for the Boston Major even on top of that, where IG has been the one that's kind of been coming up short as of late. So this has got to feel so good for them, getting that top spot, going undefeated. So that was definitely the biggest thing from that group. Newbie Boss, as mentioned, they went 0-3-2, a very respectable performance, but in the end, not good enough to advance on. eHome as well. Talk about a drop-off. eHome 0-1-4, and really in general as of late, they've been having some very poor to really no results in the end. So this is a team with a lot of deep history in the Dota 2 scene. It is a little surprising to see them struggle as they have been lately. But they finished even in the last place. But again, CDEC and LGD Forever Young, the two teams advancing on. As far as Group B, we had VGJ. This is the fun team here that to kind of go over real quickly again. This is the newer team that they recently qualified for the Star Ladder as well. And on top of that, they now qualify for this: Aggressive Freeze, ROTK, FY, and Fenrir. So looking at the roster, I mean, you can't really be too surprised that they're qualifying for these events. But this is a newer team. You got Jeremy Lin. He's the honorary captain. Of course, he's an NBA player. He's been invested into the Dota 2 scene as of late. So it's kind of fun having that connection as well, and that sports tie-in even. So really excited to see them at this event, another team that definitely from the Chinese scene that I know I'm a fan of at least. So IG Vitality and Vici were the other two teams that advanced on, and then you look at how it played out in the playoffs. LFY ended up defeating CDEC 2-0. And noticeable thing here I was looking at, they ran Wraith King Phoenix as their last game to ultimately do it in. It was a Wraith King core and a Phoenix support. So somewhat of a unique lineup right there, but in the end, taking it. And then IG Vitality was able to take out CDEC 2-0 to advance on as well. So we have our four teams right here: IG, Team VGJ, LGD Forever Young, and IG Vitality. So those are the four teams joining the other four. Evil Geniuses, Wings, OG, and Newbie, of course. So looking forward to seeing that event again. This event, though, it's not going to be happening for a while. And that's kind of the other thing. Is it sometimes too soon to be hosting qualifiers? Because this event doesn't happen until March 28th. A lot of things can happen. Now, I know with the roster locks and stuff, ideally, we aren't going to see any significant roster changes and stuff. But I would always be a little worried if I was organizing an event and having it so far in advance as far as the qualifiers go. Really 2.5 months in advance. I mean, I guess it's not the craziest amount of time either. So, once again, a quick reminder, guys, as we're going to continue moving on here in just a second. But first off, what's coming up in a little bit? Suns fan will be joining us in about 20 minutes from now. Excited to have him on. Also, if you would like to call into the show, feel free to go to my Discord channel, which actually, let me have a LinkedIn chat real quickly. Go to my Discord channel and then message me on Discord if you are interested in joining me on the show to talk about ideally any of the topics that we went over today. We're going to be doing that at the end of the podcast here. So, again, look forward to that, and that'll be coming later on. But this leads us, however, into our next topic here that we wanted to talk about now. So that being the good old WESG. The WESG also stands for, what does it stand for? Where the hell is the page? So unorganized. Yeah, I'll just pull it up right here. World Electronic Sports Game. That's right. World Electronic Sports Games took place. Now, this event, a very unique event. A very unique event in a couple of ways. Pull it on screen for you guys to get more info from it. But in case you missed out, this event took place this last weekend here. It was a LAN event held in Changshu, China. Chengzhou. I think it's Chengzhou is how you pronounce it. Anyways, Chengzhou, China. And it had a $1.5 million prize pool. So it's like, whoa, that's actually a very legitimate prize pool here. I mean, we're talking about major level money. when it comes down to it. However, the format was fairly unique in the sense that this was a Nations Cup tournament of sorts. It's not the first time it's ever been done by any means, but it's this idea that has been tried throughout time, and I feel like it's been done okay a couple of times, but when it comes to team games especially, it tends to be a little bit more difficult. I feel like esports is in a spot where it's hard to really get the organization of players and of teams to truly have a country represented. You think of traditional sports. You think of, obviously, soccer, a.k.a. football, as many call it in the world. As a great example to tie into this, they have the World Cup. They have the Olympics. They actually, their country, I don't know who exactly they have a organization, usually an Olympic organization or whatever, that forms their teams, brings the best players from the different clubs or whatever that are playing within their country, and then they form this nation's team. When it comes to the WESG and a lot of these esports style of events, a lot of the times we find ourselves instead getting already formed teams that happen to all be from the same country, or kind of a mix of players that just decide, you know what, we're good players, let's try to do something here with our country. It's good. I mean, I'm not saying it's horrible. It's not going to work, but it's not a true Olympic feel. It does take away from this idea of really being able to root for a one-country team or even a couple of teams from that country, or, putting these best teams together. But instead, with this $1.5 million prize pool, it also really set up these teams that happen to be from the same country. It gave them the opportunity to really take advantage of the format and ideally do very well in it. So we had teams such as Alliance, such as Cloud9, the former Danish Bears and Imperial team. We had Horde, obviously, TNC Pro Team, Infamous. In fact, you look at all the top-placing teams, pretty much all the top-placing teams, at least the top 8, happen to be already formed teams from these countries. So what this ended up being was more of a Tier 2, Tier 3 tournament that happened to have a massive prize pool in the end. So that it's kind of, there are some funky feelings when it comes to this event. Now, obviously, right off the bat, the WESG, this was a marketing ploy, as a lot are, no doubt, but this was a heavy marketing ploy tournament. I say that for a couple of reasons. One being the very obvious, that they had many different events going on. It wasn't just Dota 2. There's also CSGO. There's also, there's StarCraft, Hearthstone, I believe, and even a couple of others, if I'm not mistaken. So there was a lot of, sharing the main stage with these other events and with these other games. And so it was more about putting on a show than it was about representing the game that is, and really bringing together the best competition that it could bring together. So that with that in mind, it's whatever. It's a great opportunity for such teams, including these teams that, again, you look at a team that won it in the end. TNC Pro Team, by the way, a quick recap here. TNC Pro Team did take out Cloud9 in the finals. It actually was a very good finals, I will say that. The finals tournament actually ended up being very, very fun to watch, and it went to a third game. Ultimately, a very, very close third game that actually TNC Pro Team was able to squeak by and get victorious. It was a little bit of a throw from Cloud9, you could argue, but TNC Pro, they stuck together. They played their co-op, who got a Blade Mail level 25. Oh my god, that is insanely powerful if you have not seen it before. Point is, they won it. Alliance ended up getting the third place spot. They got knocked down by TNC. And then Infamous, actually, team from South America. I was actually excited to see them there. Very deserving of getting that fourth place spot. But again, you got all these teams having to be previously formed teams going into this tournament. And you see the prize pool breakdown. TNC Pro Team won $800,000 from this tournament. That is nothing to scoff at. Now, obviously, TNC Pro Team, they're not a bad team. They're not a team that didn't deserve this. They are a very legitimate team. They've had their TI success and whatnot. And, same to really all these other teams up there. But we'll stay on this topic. First things first, were there any disappointments in this event? There was a couple. First one being Horde, actually, another one of these teams that, is all together kind of going into it. They did not end up getting out of their group stage. Team Dalcom, MVP Revolution, and a Chinese team in To Be or Not to Be ended up qualifying out of it. So I feel like Horde definitely should have been a team to see come out of this group, but they did not come out. Team Ukraine was another one. Now, this is one of those cases of not a actual team beforehand, but you look at this player list, Resolution, Dendy, General, Always Want to Fly, and Art Style. These are very legitimate players that are coming together to represent Ukraine here at this event. So, see, this feels more like of what this event arguably should have been, a team like Team Ukraine, but instead it was dominated by these already formed teams, such as the Cloud9, the Alliance, the TNC, etc. Anyways, so we had them also not making out of Group D right there. You had TNC, Infamous, and Max Y actually advancing on Max Y, a team from China as well. So, but other than that, there wasn't really too many disappointments. Alliance getting knocked down to the third place match. I think a lot of people would have expected Alliance to win this whole thing, if not at least get to the finals. But they lost to TNC Pro Team, who ended up winning the whole thing and clearly show that they are a very, very strong team. So I don't know if that's necessarily a huge disappointment for Alliance, but, you probably would expect, again, they had to be one of the tournament favorites going into this event. But this leads me to now another interesting topic right here. And actually, you know what I've been forgetting to do here? Dang it. There's just so much going on. Let's start with this one first. We'll start with this straw poll first before advancing on right here. I got to pull up the dashboard again. Is there some static? I apologize if there is some static. In fact, here, maybe I could turn down this. I don't know if that would actually help, but probably not. Anyways, here's the first straw poll. This has to do with the earlier topic, so if you want to fill it out, and we can look at the results here very shortly when you guys have them, or after you've filled it out. So that has to do with DC. Did they deserve the invite? But this actually leads me to my next topic that I want to kind of discuss here about the WESG and whether or not it should be considered a major LAN of sorts. Should this victory, by pretty much the point being, should TNC's victory here and even Cloud9's runner-up finish, should these be taken into consideration when throwing out invites to big events, specifically the major, but other kind of big tournaments that are happening, whether it's a Valve-sponsored major event or another LAN tournament that happens to be, some good money on the line? Should an event like this have impact towards whether or not a team gets invited? No. No is my direct answer right off the bat. Absolutely not. And I think we've kind of covered why already for the most part. TNC is a very good team. Cloud9 is a very good. All these teams are great teams, but the lack of opportunity for so many teams to truly participate in this event means the field of teams was not really that strong in the end. I mean, overall, the field of teams, we're talking about a lot of mediocre teams that would never in their Dota 2 career would even have opportunity to make another LAN event, let alone participate for a $1.5 million prize pool. And I think the prize pool split kind of reflected this tournament and this idea as well. They only paid out the top 8 teams. They flew out 24 teams. 24 teams were playing in this tournament. Only the top 8 actually even got a cut of the prize pool. And 5th through 8 was only $10,000 each. I mean, that's not a lot of money, especially when you consider splitting it 5 ways. So, and even more in some cases with managers, coaches, whatever. So, it really was top 4 as far as the prize pool split is broken down that ultimately got really anything out of this. But I think that kind of makes sense for this kind of event, right? Because it goes back to this idea that we're having a lot of these teams that now there's the argument, is it okay for organizations to fly out teams to play an event for a show that they're putting on and then not give them anything in return other than room and boarding and food maybe, and yeah, I think there's a fine line there. I think for an event like this where it is more of a showcase and you're giving these bottom these I don't want to say bottom tier because these are obviously good teams in the end, but not up echelon tier teams opportunity to play in such an event that they would never get the opportunity before, I think you could argue that that is fine. They didn't necessarily need a cut of said prize pool to justify them going to this. So, but going back to the original question and the original point of should this be considered towards helping any of these teams get towards an invite? And I bring this up because I've actually seen Reddit posts about this and this discussion going on a little bit. To me, the answer again goes back to being really easy, and that is just simply no. But I'm going to straw poll link it once again for this question now, and we can look at the other straw poll as well. Let me get the chance here. 12 votes. Nice. Got some activity in chat today. No, but it just, the whole argument, the whole debate, it's just absolutely not. There really shouldn't be any significance whatsoever in terms of should this help them get to a big event. They got a massive prize pool out of this. They got plenty out of it. Both TNC and Cloud9, even Alliance for finishing third place in a very mediocre competitive event. Still got $200,000. That's a lot of freaking money. $40,000 per player. I mean, we're talking about some good money there. So, again, simple answer, absolutely not really, is what it comes down to. So, what other kind of things that I want to talk about? Oh, yeah, so the WESG, a couple other things that I wanted to touch on here. First off, too, about the WESG, there were some issues at the event. Nothing really massive. There was some audio issues that took place. It happens. There's only coming out of one speaker. I've been part of many LANs myself and have had audio issues. It's frustrating as hell being on the side of trying to get it figured out. But anyways, other than that, I found the event itself to be somewhat satisfying. I actually watched a okay amount of it. However, there were a couple of issues. One, they covered very few of the group stage matches. We're talking about a group stages that had 24 teams. They were officially only casting one series every single set of matches, and there was something like 6 different matches going on at a time. So now I'm not saying that all these teams, people really wanted to see, but I feel like if you're going to put on a $1.5 million tournament with all this hype and everything, and not go through the efforts of at least casting a couple other matches in the group stages, you're doing it wrong, frankly. So, and then there was actually the first round of the playoffs. I believe even the first couple of rounds of the playoffs, it was kind of the same story. They really only had one official stream. So they were only officially casting one match. And actually, I was reached out by the organization. There was a chance they actually thought about it, and they were like, oh, yeah, we should have, community casters cast the group stage matches. So I was like, you know what? That's actually that's a cool way to do it, and I would gladly help them out if they need the help. But it turns out that they were just looking for volunteers. They were not looking to give any kind of compensation. It was just simply, oh yeah, we would promote your stream and stuff, and it's like, no, not worth it. Sorry. So it's a little disappointing from that end that they weren't willing to give a little more effort, or even a little bit of something to maybe help community casters out there. With a chance to cast in matches. But so that was a little bit disappointing. The lack of marketing in general, I don't know about you guys, but before this weekend, I didn't even know this tournament was going on. I did not preview this in my previous podcast because I did not know this event was going on. I completely overlooked it. And I consider myself somebody that's really looking into a lot of Dota 2 news because with all the content that I'm doing, whether it's being such a caster or doing this podcast or doing a couple other content creations here lately, I'm doing my best to get as much knowledge as possible. Again, I did not even know this event was going on until basically Friday. I was like, wait, that's right, the WESG. Oh my God, there's a $1.5 million prize pool. What the hell's going on? All right, yeah, and I feel like I'm not alone in that either. A couple of people suggesting that they were the same as well. So, yeah, I remember. See, that's the thing. I remember the qualifiers a couple of months ago, but I haven't heard anything since. Yes, I remember Imperial winning the qualifiers for the European prize pool, but do I feel the funds should be allocated differently? Oh, so you mean taking away from the prize pool a little bit and giving more to the? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much they paid their staff or anything like that. All I just know is that they weren't willing to compensate community casters. Now, I'm not saying they didn't pay well to the people that were working for them in the end as far as their staff goes. So I can't really answer that question, Starman J, without actually knowing that information, unfortunately. So, um, oh yeah, and then the one other thing too was being American, being from North America, being from USA specifically, not having any team to root for at a freaking national tournament with this format was so disappointing. Now, for those that don't know, the American qualifiers of this tournament, it actually took place again 2-3 months ago. It was actually in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken, and there were some teams. I believe Team NP, Team Freedom. I don't know if Complexity was going to be going. There were a couple of actually legitimate American teams that were actually going to participate in said event. I guess it wouldn't have been in Complexity because they're from other. Anyways, but it turns out there was some embassy issues, some government issues, and the players were not able to go to the event because of said government issues. So now, from that perspective, obviously that's not necessarily WESG's fault. Shit happens sometimes. I understand that. But it still sucked. It still sucked, not having USA. It's very worth competing. USA, Canada, very worthy countries of competing in this tournament. Yet, because of this issue that took place, they were not able to have a chance to even qualify, let alone actually play in the main event. So, hell, it would have been a lot of fun, seeing NP there, seeing Team Freedom there, seeing these American teams, and that would have made me as an American be more like, yeah, there's a team that I can actually root for that's representing a country. Instead, I found myself, cheering for Alliance, which just because I happen to know them as I always do for all these other tournaments. But so yeah, that was a little shitty too, as far as how the event actually played out there. Oh, yeah, a couple other things. Dota Buff, actually, I was looking at that a little bit. There was actually 96 different heroes played, which I thought was pretty cool. A lot of diversity there. So 96 different heroes played. Rubik was the most played. Meepo was the most banned. And Underlord went 4 wins in 20 matches. So those are some interesting stat lines there to take note of. The Meepo ban, I feel like ESL 1 Genting was the same story. A lot of people just do not like dealing with Meepo. Again, Rubik being the most played hero, I found that a little curious. I know Rubik has he goes into waves, I feel like, as far as being popular. I know the Chinese scene is very popular, so, but happened to be the most picked to this event. And then again, the Underlord, though, I feel like Underlord may be a little overhyped as of late. In the good hands, I mean, if you know how to play him very well, sure, he can be very good, but I feel like people are like, oh, Underlord, a lot of people are talking about how good he is. Let's try him out. And they don't really know how to play him effectively with the Dark Rift and whatnot. So those are some fun stats from the tournament. Anyways, guys, so we're at the portion of the show. It's 4 o'clock here. We are going to take a quick break, and we're going to be coming back with our next guest, who will be Suns fan, the one, the only, the classic, the legend, the everything himself. Suns fan going to be joining us. We're going to take a 5-minute break, guys. We'll be right back here on the Breakdown Podcast with BreakyCPK. Stay tuned. Definitely got a lot more shows still to come. Suns fan coming up next. with BreakyCPK. Excited to be back here and excited to be going into our next segment here. I'm going to be giving him a call, the one, the only Suns fan, to join us here on the podcast. Suns fan.
Hello?
How's it going, man? How's it going? Welcome to the show.
BreakyCPK, the man, the legend.
No, that's you. No.
Living, breathing. Han Caster himself. How's it going, dude?
Going pretty good. Happy to have you on. Thanks for all the praise. Always fun.
Anytime, dude. You helped me get my start in esports. You know, it's it's kind of nostalgic to think about, actually. The old Han days.
NASL days. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the past.
NASL.
Man.
I was just thinking about that the other day. How they crashed and burned so hard, but back in the day they were pretty legit. Like I remember, I don't know how you felt, but when we went to their offices, I was kind of blown away that I'm in an actual studio.
Yeah.
And then I got to know everybody, and they're just like us, and it's not very intimidating after that, but still pretty cool.
No, it was a fantastic experience. I definitely agree there. But I feel like they lived a bit longer than a lot of organizations do in esports. So there's that, and they did well. But yes, then
I
things
think
went down.
Their downfall was spending so much money on hardware that was not needed.
Yeah.
I think there was I forget what the device actually did, but it cost like $100K just for this piece of hardware.
Yeah.
That you don't even need. It was just like a luxury.
The TriCaster that they had, that could tend to be a little expensive there. So.
Yep.
You are not Anti-Droid. You are a Suns fan. Gotta correct that.
Oh my goodness!
There.
How dare you?
All right, but happy to have you on here and to talk about actually things happening as of late here in the Dota 2 scene, and specifically you and your role with Team DC and everything. And I want to get right off the bat. I want to ask you: do you feel like DC deserved an invite to the DAC?
To DAC? Over EG, maybe. I think it's about even. Over other teams, absolutely. But I think it's a good thing, honestly. I don't think the guys were mad at all about it. I'm not mad about it. I think it's better for us to play more games anyway. I think the worst thing you could do when you're successful, because who knows how long that's going to last, is you need to keep yourself fresh. You need to be able to play these games. You can't just expect to get invites to every single tournament. So I'm okay with it. I think it's just one of those, it's a Chinese biased LAN. I mean, that's pretty much simple as that. I think
EG's big over
Chinese.
there.
What's that?
EG is big over there.
Yes, EG. They're loved and hated, like none other, which is obviously a great storyline. I mean, I can kind of understand their perspective a bit, because you don't want to bring two NA teams, because after that you have NP, and that's a bit of a drop off after that. But they just wanted to ensure that they had what was it, half the teams? I haven't even looked at the list yet, but half the teams are probably Chinese, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So, not shocking.
Well, we were going over that because there was 4 invited teams, 2 of them were Chinese, and then their qualifiers. So there's 8 qualified teams, 4 of those are Chinese as well. That we just saw happen. So.
That was I think might be the exact same format as the original DAC. I wouldn't be surprised.
Gotcha.
So yeah, not surprising. Obviously, it would be cool to get direct invites, but if I can be perfectly honest, I kind of prefer this.
Yeah.
Keep the boys fresh. I don't like this whole complacency thing. You could say that about pretty much anybody. Even in your own pub games, right? For me, as an example, you're up a little bit, you get a little cocky. You need to be brought back down a bit. And that's always a good thing for the mental state. Competitiveness.
I felt that lately. I went on it was 11-game winning streak. I felt like a god. I felt like an all-star, and I just couldn't lose. And then I realized that I could, and then I lost 4 games in a row. So it's the swings, man. You really gotta really be humble.
I hear you, man. I've been on many a streaks lately. This new patch is the high ground is really, really frustrating, I have to say. To the point where, in the past patches, you didn't really have to think about getting a high ground pusher or anything like that, because if you just snowball early game, you just win. Now, even if you snowball ridiculously hard in the early game, if you don't have somebody that can push a tower, I find it, at least in my level, it's very difficult to actually get barracks and push for the win.
Yeah.
Because just sitting back there with your shrines, they probably have some freaking sniper or whatever other high ground amazing defense hero, and it makes me want to kill myself sometimes. But I refrain and I learn from my mistakes, and I pick like Dragon Knight and just win the game in 20 minutes. So.
Well, I mean, DC's not making mistakes lately, that's for sure. They won ESL 1 Genting, so obviously, first off, congratulations on that. You did very well there, Suns fan. You did very well at that event.
Yep, on me, bro. On me.
No. But it was impressive to see that. They looked really good. Again, a lot of people consider this to be the first major LAN post 7.0. Were you happy with the way your team played? I mean, they won it, so I assume so.
Yeah, I think it was more of a mental thing at some point, especially for Resolution, actually, if I can be a little honest here. He was getting frustrated is not the right word. Every time I would talk to him after we'd like lose a tournament, even if we placed relatively well, like top 2 international, top 4 at the major, he'd always be kind of sad and down. He's like, man, just can't get that one win. And finally, we were able to do that. So I think it's kind of like getting a monkey off the back, so to speak. But yeah, I thought they played very well. I didn't know what to expect because they hadn't practiced a whole lot on the patch, but that's kind of been the case for a lot of the Western teams because of the holidays. I don't know if I wouldn't say I was super confident going against Newbie because as the commentators pretty much illustrated, that they've been practicing the crap out of this patch.
Yeah.
They played a lot. And I think the thing that brought us over the edge was the switch to Dire, which I think this is something that I kind of talked to them about. Maybe I'm trying to remember which team it was. Maybe it wasn't this team. Maybe it was the AUI team. But essentially trying to switch things up if you're down in a series, which is a very common, traditional sports method. Just messing with the enemy in some way if you don't feel like you're going to win. Because we were down 2-1, and the game that we won in that best of 5 was not like it was super close. And we played Radiant all 3 games, and then they looked at the situation like, you know what? Newbie's been playing Dire this entire freaking tournament. Let's make them prove that they can beat us on Radiant. So they had first pick, and they chose because they knew we wanted Dire. They knew that we wanted Radiant because we've been playing Radiant as well. So they chose either first or second pick. I can't remember which one they were prioritizing. And then we switched it up and chose Dire, took it from them, beat them game 4. And then the beauty of that is game 5, we get first choice what we want to do. So we just pick Dire right off the bat. And that's literally the difference, I think. Because both teams, as far as like execution and things of that nature, were pretty close, I would say. Just the Dire. Nobody understands this map, man. I don't understand it.
That's one of those many things that it's just taking time to get used to for these teams. And no doubt, I actually had Cart Dota on, I believe, last week show, and he actually brought up that same point that you're talking about the Dire switch up right there. So clearly something changed. It's kind of that halftime adjustments you can kind of relate it to.
I don't even know. See, that's the thing, though. Like, just because they picked Dire and they won with it, or the fact that Newbie was dominating on Dire the entire tournament, doesn't even necessarily mean that Dire is the more one-sided side.
Wow.
Because they could have just been practicing Dire only. You don't even know. And they were just really good at Dire, and they just hadn't practiced Radiant as much. But I know a lot of people, you're probably included, I know I am, when the patch came out, like, wow, Radiant actually has pretty decent advantage. They have Roche a lot closer to them. You can literally TP like 5 steps from Roche, essentially, which is crazy if you think about it.
It is.
It's never been anything like that.
Yeah. Really close to the pit right there. So, and it's got to be pretty satisfying overall that they won it with Centaur in the end, their final game.
Dude, I was so excited. I did not make the trip to Malaysia, which I regret now. I had to choose between Dota Pit and ESL. Obviously, ESL is a little bit bigger tournament, but I've already been to Malaysia, so I wanted to experience something new in Croatia, and I just can't travel that much. It just kills me. It really does.
Don't blame you.
So I chose Croatia, but the Centaur pick, it was like, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. here. I was going pretty crazy. It was kind of fitting, I guess.
Yeah.
Of course, he played it like the old Centaur, but I'll let it slide.
Come on. You can't have it all, man.
I mean, it's Moon, man. Like, I've been a fan of that guy since Han.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Speaking of Moon, I mean, NASL, speaking of that kind of ties it all in, right? That's where he got his big name.
That's where I met him for the first time.
Yeah.
I was a fan of his stream. This was like when streams were just like barely a new thing. He was a huge troll, as you know, and I was still relatively new to the scene. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't met that many people in real life after meeting them online first, and he was a normal person. I was surprised. I remember thinking this, like, holy shit, you are literally the complete opposite as you are on stream, because he was an annoying piece of garbage on stream, even though I enjoyed watching him. But yeah, he has come a long way, because that was, as you know, his first time playing competitively. I think
that was his
Trout,
breakout.
right?
Yeah.
What team was that?
Put him on the spot now for that. Jeez, that was.
It was. I remember the finals were like the Lions, right, with Era.
Yes, it was that
And-
Lions crew. Yes.
And Loda was there with Ake. I forget what team they were on.
Online Kingdom, maybe.
Maybe.
Might have been
Yeah,
Online
that
Kingdom.
sounds familiar.
TMSR. Were they TMSR? Was that it? God,
That does not sound
that
familiar
doesn't sound
to me.
familiar. Okay, so.
But it was Moon Meander, Tralfamador, and I can't remember who else. Was
Yeah.
Swindles there? I think Swindles.
He might have been there. That might have been early for him too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so long
Man,
ago.
old school.
Yeah.
Freaking old school.
Well, so I mean, touching on Moon Meander a little bit more here is obviously he's been a part of DC now for a little bit. You mentioned it seems like he's come along with the team very well. I mean, how is he fitting in? Do you feel like he's the offlaner that you're looking for and fitting well?
Oh, he's terrible. We're definitely cutting him.
Inside news breaking.
I think the thing that he brought to the table that we were lacking. I don't know if you remember the interview from Ti. But this is something that we talked with Misery about like way before TI, is that he just didn't like being in-game shot caller or a leader because it's just too much pressure. There's some truth to that. I think he's not giving himself enough credit. Obviously, he's a very good captain, as has been illustrated here in the latest few weeks at least. But he just needs somebody else that talks and can call stuff in-game, and that wasn't really happening. Like Resolution was kind of he's a quiet carry. Weehaw, he can make calls at times, but it's not like super consistent, especially in scrims. My God, that's another story though. And then off lane, you need somebody that is a playmaker that is gonna call things very confidently, and he has a wide variety of heroes he can choose. And Moon, he can literally pick a freaking Omni Knight off lane. I mean, it's ridiculously good.
Yeah. Resolution, another player on your team, in case you forgot. He recently played at the WESG. Now, is there part of you, being in your spot, were you a little hesitant to allow that to happen, or were you all for it? You're okay. You're like, yeah, go for it.
I don't think there was any. No, not really. I mean, I thought about the ideas. Like, that's kind of weird, but the entire tournament's kind of weird. It's just, It feels like it's a for fun tournament with a lot of fucking money, which is a weird combination. But it wasn't a huge investment as far as time commitment from him, so it's not a big deal. Sad to see him not place very highly, but I mean, tournaments like that are just super inconsistent, and I mean, I didn't even know. Like, I've obviously heard that it was going. I didn't even know when it was or who was covering it.
Same.
And I think the biggest mistake they made. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes. Let's be real. Just the idea of doing something like that is super difficult to pull off, especially in a scene where organizations, like ours, as a perfect example, 5 different nationalities on the roster, so you're not going to get a full team in most cases. But I don't know. It's a tough format to pull off. But the fact that it was in China really really made it horrible. I think made it not as interesting for the Westerners at the very least. So.
Yeah, no American team. I was talking about that. No Canadian, no American team, even because of the issues that they had with the qualifier. So it's like it felt for us. It just felt a little off.
From the Canadian side, I think Moon was talking to me about this. Even if they could get the visa issues worked out, I don't think they even wanted to go. It was, I think they had to go to South America.
Yes, it was Brazil.
And they just didn't. It didn't match up with what they wanted. So I don't even know if the visas even mattered in the end, but who knows.
All right, well, so he played in that. Unfortunately, Team Ukraine did not do so hot.
What did they even place anyway?
She's not top 8. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I could double check here real quick. They placed. Yeah, they were all the way down here, 13th through 16th. Yeah, they didn't get any prize pool, unfortunately, so they did not make it out of groups somehow.
That's too bad.
Yeah,
That was a stacked team too.
that was.
That just goes to show that it's not all talent. Chemistry is a huge deal.
Oh yeah.
It's like USA basketball is a perfect example. What was it? 10 years ago, they would just, all right, you're an all-star, let's get on the team, and then they actually lost in Olympics. And they've since taken it a lot more seriously. They actually practice in the summers. Still not ideal considering the teams you're playing against, in terms of USA basketball at least. They play together pretty much the entire year, minus one or two players, but they can usually overcome with their athletic ability for the most part.
Yes, that was that they were going through phases though where they were just having like college players join the team because they stopped kind of caring about it, and then they realized, okay, maybe we need to try a little harder. Well, that's good. But enough about that. The Dota Pit LAN coming up. So you've hinted. So you're going to be going to that?
Yes.
Nice. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, I hear Croatia is nice. We'll see. Teams, they're pretty good teams going. So I guess never mind. I guess I'm not allowed to say who we're playing unless it's been announced.
It has been announced. There were tweets about it, actually, I think.
Okay.
So
it should be good based on our first matchup. Should be interesting at the very least. And from the looks of it, I think the lower bracket is all best of one. Not sure if that's a typo, but
yeah,
it's interesting.
So
that'll keep things exciting for the viewers at least.
You play Team Secret, by the way. Yeah. So for those that are wondering, Team Secret.
Yeah. Hopefully the weather will be nice over there. So get to enjoy that.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun event to follow up with. Obviously the ESL one Genting. See how the momentum continues there with that tournament. But it is a pretty stacked event. So I was going to preview that in a little bit here after having you on here, but. The American region, kind of going back to that real quickly, you mentioned, so you guys are going to have to qualify through the American region for the DAC now. I've talked about how it's becoming a little more of a gauntlet. It's not, the American region, I feel like it's stepping up in lately when it comes to the competition. You have Wanted now, you have Team Onyx, you have, Complexity NP. What do you think of the American region lately, and has it advanced, do you feel?
Of course. It used to be a complete pile of shit, so... Definitely better than that. I mean, some of those teams, like the PPD team and the Bulba team, you have no idea what to expect. They're kind of wild cards to some degree. Complexity, step up from that just because of consistency. NP is legitimately very good. And then obviously us and EG. So it's better than, what was it, a year ago when we participated in the qualifiers for TI, they didn't even have enough teams to invite to actually fill out the 8-team or however many teams it was. So it's definitely improved. And I think a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that EG and DC, even though DC obviously has a lot of Euros on it, they're both NA orgs and they both have done extremely well. Mm-hmm. I think that might have something to do with it. I could be horribly wrong. But I'm more interested to see what happens with was it TI or, I can't remember if it was a major or TI, but this has a South American region they have to qualify through.
Yes.
Because I can guarantee you one of those, I'm not going to call them lower echelon teams, but like the Onyx or the Wanted, a team like that is going to end up going to South America. I guess they technically don't have to go there. They can, so they won't get invited, right, to the regionals.
No. So
they'll win the Open on whatever servers the South Americans would play on. Mm-hmm. They'll probably win because everybody's banned that's good in South America. And they'll just play the South American qualifiers. That's what's going to happen. I can guarantee it. And if they don't do it, they're actually dumb. They should do that. They should use everything at their disposal to try to get to TI.
We saw a little bit of that in the Boston Major, obviously, with Europe coming over to the American qualifiers and playing in the American. So that kind of opened that door, that Pandora's box, you can call it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I will say, South America, I've been casting some American region teams. There's some decent teams. Infamous, one that comes to mind. They're legitimate, but
I think that the two, what is it, Smash and I'm gonna
Van
Z-Talk.
Z-Talk,
are the two players that have been banned for life.
Yeah,
which was a huge hit to the South American scene. I think the teams, there's a couple of decent teams like you're saying, but they're missing two enormous stars, and that does take its toll. So I think I'm not saying that an NA team is going to win the South American region, but they're going to try.
Yeah.
And they'll put up a fight at the very least. It's not going to be like the Euros for the qualifiers that you're talking about because they got stomped. They got ruffle stomped.
They did, yeah.
I don't think any of them even made it. I think they just got last place completely, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they made it to the Open qualifier, but then the actual main part, didn't do as well. So cool. So real quickly too, before we wrap up here, what are you with DC? Like, what is your official title with DC?
Owner.
So the owner. Okay.
Co-owner, I guess. We have some investors. So.
Well, you got PPD's situation recently. He just became CEO of Evil Geniuses. If there was advice that you could give to somebody like PPD, what would it be?
Okay. For PPD, I would say if you're going to be, again, I don't know how much staff he has and all that good stuff and how much he delegates, but if you're going to be working with the Dota players in particular, show patience because sometimes the things they ask for can make you question your life, essentially. Especially for somebody like PPD, who I know probably, at least so I've heard, has a short fuse. But again, he probably has like staff just going to be doing most of that stuff anyway. I'm talking about like for me, the first year I put in a ton of work through the team by doing stuff that typically an owner wouldn't be doing anyway. Like literally just getting them food and stuff like that, which long term I definitely didn't want to do, but you do what you got to do to get your org running. But EG is obviously in a different state, and again, he's CEO. I don't even know what that means, though.
That's fair.
I don't know what that means because he could have tons of staff. The fact that he's playing on a team means that maybe he doesn't have as much to do anymore. I don't know exactly. But yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens. I think that he's kind of taken it's kind of a traditional sports mentality with like retired players becoming owners. NBA, for example. So we'll see what happens. Should be interesting.
It absolutely should be. You're a sports guy yourself. We've seen a lot of sports organizations getting more and more involved in esports, some NBA teams. There's been some football clubs from other countries. I mean, what do you think about all that going on? Do you think it's overall good for the scene?
Well, I sent a letter to the Phoenix Sun, so we'll see what happens.
That would be something.
I think it's pretty cool. That would be the dream, honestly. But no, like Magic Johnson getting involved. Who is it? The 76ers, the Warriors. Yeah. I think the Rockets maybe. There are a couple other teams I can't remember right off the top of my head, but Miami Heat just got Misfits. I think it's freaking awesome. It's gonna. So here's the thing. There's two sides of this coin. So there's going to be a lot of money coming in the scene, which is great for everybody. And the second thing, which has been an issue in the past, which I don't think is going to be as much anymore, are these investors coming in and then trying to control things when they don't actually understand the scene at all.
Yeah.
That's the big thing that I think a lot of these teams actually understand now, which is great. So I have high hopes, and I think eventually every single NBA team will be invested in something. It's just a matter of time. So we'll see. And I just mentioned NBA because I don't follow anybody else. Let's be real.
Well, isn't Phoenix moving to Mexico City though?
What?
Didn't they just they played a game in Mexico City recently?
Yeah. And that's not a Phoenix. That's the NBA. They want this cross-border interaction.
All right. Thought I heard Phoenix. All right.
That would be just awful. My God, I actually wonder if they moved, if I would even be a fan of them anymore. Oh, that would just tear me apart. I can't imagine what the Supersonic fans felt when their team moved to Oklahoma.
I swear I thought you were taking a stab at me there for a second.
What?
Because I am a San Diego Chargers
LA Chargers now?
A Chargers fan as of a couple of days ago.
So how do you feel? Is it LA? I can't remember.
It's Los Angeles now, yes.
So how do you feel?
Moved to LA.
Tell me all your emotions. I'm interested.
I feel like shit. I feel like I'm not a fan of the team anymore. The owner betrayed the city of San Diego, and
how long was he an owner? Is he a new owner?
He's not necessarily a newer owner. He's been around. The Spanos family has been around for a while. He himself took over 15 years ago or something like that. But
Okay.
Overall, they've been around for a while, but it's 56 years, I think it was, that the team's been in San Diego, and it's like, all right, we're done. City doesn't
So
want to pay for a
are
stadium.
you just done with them?
I'm done with them, yeah. I'm
Like you've been a fan your entire life?
Yep.
I'm guessing.
Born and raised.
And you're definitely not going to watch their games. Or is that just something you're feeling now and you might end up doing it?
I'll be curious to see how they do. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch their games so like maybe I would before. I also moved away from San Diego, like 6 years ago now, so I don't have that connection as much anymore. A lot of my family's been, so it's like it has slowly been maybe deteriorating a little bit, and so now I'm a full-blown Lions fan, Detroit Lions here.
Okay.
It's quite the step up as far as what I've now become.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like. I mean, even the past 3 years, maybe I haven't been as hardcore of a fan of the Suns as I have in the past, just because I've been working a lot more and they've been coincidentally sucking balls as well. But yeah, that would be rough. I don't know.
Tough life. Well, I think you're good. I think the Suns are sticking around.
According to you, they're going to freaking Mexico. Good Lord.
I may have heard something.
We're not even losing them to another state. It's another fucking country.
Literally leaving the country. Literally going south. All right. Anyways, a Suns fan, obviously I want to appreciate, or thank you, I should say, for coming on the podcast here and joining me, talking to some fun stuff. Any shout-outs, anything else you want to say before?
Shout out to the great BreakyCPK. Keep up the good work, bro.
Thank you.
Your transition to Dota 2 was a long time coming, and I wish you the best, friend.
I appreciate that, Suns fan. Always a pleasure to talk to, and have fun, obviously, in Croatia this weekend. Best of luck to DC.
Thanks. See ya.
See you later. All right, so that was Suns fan, the one, the only, joining us here on the podcast. Always happy to have Suns fan on the podcast. This being the first time I've ever had him on, so I don't know why I said that, but happy to talk with him because he's generally just a great guy there. So, but also with great things to talk about as far as obviously being the owner of DC Digital Chaos, a hot team as of late. It's runner-up at TI, now just winning ESL1 Genting. I do find it interesting that ESL1 Genting, actually, I was looking back at this, that's actually the first major LAN that DC's won. And you kind of think about that, it's like DC's been a team that's been getting a lot of high praise as of late. Obviously, again, runner-up at TI means a lot, but ESL Genting was the first tournament they actually won as far as, a legitimate big event. So getting that out of the way now, too, must feel extra good. I actually forgot to ask that to him as I had him on there. But anyways, happy to have him on. I look forward to perhaps in the future. But, yeah, we're going to be seeing them at the Dota Pit, them being Digital Chaos at the Dota Pit Season number 5 LAN that will take place this coming weekend. So with that said, that actually a good transition. And as he was mentioning, as we kind of talked about there a little bit too, it was announced literally earlier today, final pieces of information were announced about the Dota Pit LAN. And one was the talent. So, we have a lot of, usual expected talent, really. Got Toby1, Odie Pixels, the casters. Odie Pixel doing a lot of traveling lately, man. Gods, Fogged, Merlini as the analyst, and then Coddle Guy and Cheever will be your host. So, fun broadcast talent there at this Dota Pit LAN. Again, this is 120. Well, it was 125,000. Now it looks like it's bumped up due to in-game tickets and cosmetics, so that could continue to rise going into the weekend right here. So that'll be fun to keep an eye on. I know I'll do my part to help fund said prize pool. Always fun to participate in that. But it was also announced the brackets. The brackets did officially come out earlier today. So now the 8 teams that are going to this event. So first things first, something to talk about. By the way, real quickly, guys, if you want to join me on the podcast here, I'm going to be doing a call-in segment in about 15 minutes from now, or 15, 20 minutes, near the end of the podcast. So if you'd like to join me on the podcast to talk about anything we've talked about today, go to my Discord channel. If you type !Discord, the link should come up. And then if you go to the, or if you whisper me on Discord with what you want to talk about, then I will gladly respond, and we can look to bring you on. So, all right. Anyways, back to this event, though. We got the 8 teams that are participating. Elements Pro Gaming leading off. They got a direct invite. Not really. Elements Pro Gaming from Serbia, so happen to be from nearby. They're actually replacing Wings Gaming. Wings Gaming and DC were the 2 originally invited teams. However, Elements Pro Gaming replaced them kind of last minute here due to some visa issues, as well as them going to the ESL 1 trip apparently just a couple of weekends ago, I guess. Just simply wasn't going to work out. So Elements Pro Gaming, now the funny thing about that too is that, if I'm not mistaken, they were I thought they won a previous one or something. They did very well. Maybe I was misreading it then, because MVP Phoenix apparently won the last one. Okay. Anywho, they are a solid team. Now, it does feel like that they're going to be outmatched here at this event, but hey, still, it'll be fun to see if they can make some plays. Anyways, you got those two invited teams. The European qualifiers were OG and Team Secret, CIS Virtus Pro, Faceless out of Southeast Asia, Invictus Gaming out of China, and then Evil Geniuses out of America. Now, these qualifiers took place something like 3 months ago or so in most cases. So, obviously, there's been a lot of time in between when the qualifiers happen and these teams actually being here. Definitely kind of interesting to that. But overall, we got a great tier list of teams. So I'm really excited to see this event. This is, again, going to be another one of the cases of one of the first 7.0 lands that's taking place since the patch came out. And obviously this last weekend, as we're talking about, really had the first one with ESL 1 Genting, and now going into more events taking place as time moves on here. So this will be another good one. A lot of these teams that actually will be their first one themselves. I mean, you got teams like Elements Pro, you got OG, Team Secret, Virtus Pro, I believe. Yeah, Team Faceless. Evil Geniuses Evil Geniuses did play in that 4-team tournament in China right after the patch came out. So, I'm going to count this as the first Evil Geniuses tournament that we're going to see post 7.00 right here. Point is, excited to see them here at this event. Excited to see the list of teams. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by what's going on in my chat here. Somebody got him on the channel, and I didn't think you actually could without being invited. Oh well, we'll worry about that later. All right, so the brackets, as I mentioned, were released. So actually, real quickly, go back to that here. So these are the brackets and the matchups. Virtus Pro taking on EPG. I think Virtus Pro, whichever team was going to get Elements Pro Gaming is probably going to be pretty happy in the end. Nothing against them, but you look at all these teams, I feel like that would be the one team that you're like, yes, at least we get to play them in the first round. Nothing against them, but I think it's safe to say they are a little outmatched here overall. If they do well, then boy, am I going to look stupid. But you know what? That'll be fun. OG versus Invictus Gaming. Evil Geniuses versus Faceless. And then Digital Chaos versus Team Secret. Couple of matchups here to definitely talk about. First off, the one that I think is no doubt, hands down, the match to watch in the first round. OG versus Invictus Gaming. As I just talked about, IG just is coming off going undefeated in the Chinese qualifiers for the DAC region, for the DAC event that just took place this last weekend. They went undefeated against some really good competition out of China. So they went completely undefeated, 5-0-0, winning, so I guess overall, 10-0-0 in those matches, or 10-0. OG, on the other hand, they're, of course, the Boston Major champions, and they are going to be playing in their first event post the Boston Major event. So this, no doubt, has to be the matchup to watch. I honestly am going to lean towards IG because of their recent momentum and, a lot of the play. I don't know how much OG has been playing. I know Fly's actually been on vacation for a bit here, traveling a little bit. I don't know the case with the other players, but something tells me we could see a little bit of a post-major victory kind of relaxation. So I would have to say IG is probably going to be the favorites in that matchup there. But as a fan, I would hope that OG definitely wins. The other matchup, though, to definitely talk about, DC versus Team Secret. A couple of reasons here. Obviously, Team Secret, they're newly kind of put-together team. Most recognizable player in my mind is Keizu. He's new to the team. I have a lot of history with Keizu as far as coming from years of New Earth and casting him and seeing his progress that he's made in this scene. So this will be the first really big tournament with Keizu. Now, it depends on what you mean by really big. They did win. They won the, or did they win, or they played an event recently? It was it was the ROG Masters. So they did actually win the ROG Masters. They got their share of the $71,000. It looks like they beat Execration in that tournament. Now, that was before. Yeah, this was back in November. Yeah, so this was a little bit ago, back in November. But this is shortly after Keizu joined the team. I believe he joined the team to then go to that event with him as his first event right away. But this is a much different scale, right? Not only really in the sense that it's the competition that they're going up against. These are legitimate teams across the board from all over the world. So it's going to be fun to see how a player like Keizu does, and obviously how Team Secret does as a team. But Digital Chaos, as we're talking about, they're coming off their ESL 1 Genting victory. Fantastic team. I would have to lean towards DC, no doubt there. But I do hope that Keizu does well and attempts to carry Team Secret. But, of course, Team Secret, obviously, you got Puppy in that whole situation. I know people like to meme about that and the fight me and stuff. But, yeah, Misery and Weaver's Puppy, as people are pointing out. I guess former teammates even participating against one another there. So always makes for some fun and entertainment when you got some grudge matches going on here. Other than that, the other brackets, I figure EG is definitely going to defeat Faceless. Faceless, honestly, was very disappointing at the Boston Major. I had really high hopes for them going into the Boston Major, and they just completely let me down. Not going to lie. They just completely flopped. So maybe this event will be different with the new patch and everything like that, but I definitely lean towards EG. And then you got Virtus Pro, no doubt, over Elements Pro Gaming. There's no question there, in my opinion. I think that's going to be an easy victory for them. And then, yeah, Sunfan was hinting at it. It looks like that's going to be a best of one in the losers bracket all the way to the grand finals. Even the losers finals is set up to be best of one right now. Now, Liquipedia could very likely be wrong. I would find it hard to believe that it's going to be best of one all the way through the losers. So I don't think that's the case. But that'll be something else to kind of keep an eye on there and see how that looks. But again, guys, this starts, the 20th? That's, Friday? Yeah, this starts Friday. This coming Friday, the Dota Pit Season 5 going to be taking place. So look forward to that, as that should be a lot of fun to tune into and experience. It's, really, especially with this new patch, I know I've been really enjoying these tournaments here and looking forward to watching them. So, and you know what? Let's go ahead and just do this. This is another straw poll. Who the hell's going to win this tournament? I guess I should give my take on this before we advance on. If I had to pick a team that's going to win this event, man, it's so tough, though, with the new patch and everything. I feel like it's going to either be DC or Invictus Gaming. I don't know. IG, though, going undefeated recently, they've been playing a lot. The Chinese region in general has been playing so much. I'm going to lean towards IG. You know what? I'm picking a Chinese team to win this tournament. Is that smart? Probably not. But if I had to pick a team, if you put me on the spot, put a gun to my head, and we're like 3 seconds, choose a team, Invictus Gaming, just simply because of their recent momentum. And they are a very good roster. Birding, OP, XXS, Boba, not Boba, Boboka, and Q. Boba did not join Invictus Gaming. I would choose IG. I really would. Anyways, we'll see. Let's see what you guys think. How many votes do we have in here? I got a fair amount so far. Enough worth showing at least on stream for you guys. There we go. Evil Geniuses, shocker, leading the way. Fan favorite team over here. I mean, not that they can't win. I mean, the likelihood of Evil Geniuses winning is definitely up there. I wouldn't put it past them winning this event, but I do gotta think there's a little bit of favoritism in these results so far. IG, only one other person in chat has voted for IG. That was not my vote, actually, so on the straw poll it is. Only one other homie has my back out there. You got EG, OG, and Digital Chaos are kind of leading. So, again, not the most crazy amount of votes, but interesting always to see what you guys are thinking when it comes to these results here. That takes place, though, Friday once again, and excited to see how that tournament shapes up here. We'll see who's right and who's right. I swear to God, if IG actually wins, I'm going to come back on in the next podcast and just gloat the hell out of it. Be like, yeah, that was totally me. I guess that. Totally knew it. I had the inside information. Good to go. Yada, yada. Excuse me there, by the way. By the way, thanks for the subscription, Rodney, and the resub. Screwing up the podcast since 2017. I don't think it showed on stream, obviously, but I appreciate the the resub, man. Really, obviously, any support, guys, is much appreciated, and really thankful. Helps keep me going with all the content creation and the casting and everything. So really do appreciate that. What are we going to be talking about next? Okay, so let's do this here. You know what? We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna actually show you a not a commercial. Show you a tidbit of informational video. So this is some free advice from you may have heard of him, the one and only Chessie. Thanks to Pugna.com. So check it out, guys.
So it's all about staying efficient in your lane and not having any downtime. That is the most important thing in this patch. So I'll yet again go over the things that I just talked about, the things that you can do to stay efficient in your lane in order not to have to run like all the way back to your base, which is, you know, plenty of things that you can actually do now. Is one, you make sure you go for a rune each spawn. A little trick to be able to get the rune before your enemy is to push out the wave. So if I use my spell and then push out the wave and he has creeps pushing into him, he's gonna have to make a decision to either he go for a rune, where that is 50-50 if he gets or not, or he stays and gets the XP from the creeps that are coming in. So most people, if they're smart, are almost always gonna have to stay for the creeps in order to not miss out on the XP. And if they do decide to stay for the creeps, you can actually, you know, stand around here in the middle lane, have a ward scouting one of the runes, and then you just go for the spot where the rune is at. If you don't manage to catch the rune, your plan B should always be to refill your bottle using the courier and ferry it back to base. If courier is in use, you cannot do that. You go over to plan C, use a shrine, run over to one of the shrines. If this shrine is not available, use a TP skull, get to this shrine. This is not for, you should not always use a TP skull there, you know, assess the situation. If you might need a TP for one of your lanes in order to help them out, you might want to keep your TP on yourself. But otherwise, 50 gold, full health, full mana, and a bounty rune can be quite worth. You generally speaking don't want to be running like all the way down to this rune either. I mean, it might not seem like a lot, but you use this, you wait 5 seconds, you run all the way down here, you run all the way back. When you don't have boots, going this whole entire trip, it's not worth it for you. You're gonna be falling behind the enemy mid laner by like an entire level. So those are the most important things to keep in mind as a mid laner in this patch. Go try them out in your game. I hope you'll get many MMRs. Bye everyone.
All right, there we go, guys. Welcome back. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that free tip of the week from Chessie right there. About some mid play. I feel like I'm going to be playing mid my next game and taking it as his advice right there. Some mid Ember Spirit coming up. Because I could totally do exactly what he does right now. But so always great to get advice from players like that. And obviously that's on behalf of Pugna, PVGNA.com. Yeah, I put the link in chat. If you go to that link right there especially, it actually supports myself if you happen to sign up for the site, which is a subscription-based service for a monthly service there. But you get tons of access to just all these educational videos and everything about becoming a better Dota 2 player. I got to say, you know, kind of working with them behind the scenes now, and I'm actually creating some content for them now. So on top of that, guys, there's actually content pieces that I'm doing for them, and you may be thinking, well, what the hell can Breaky teach me? I'm not actually creating teaching videos. I'm actually creating a weekly recap of sorts. So I'm creating, I started last week, and it's continuing on for hopefully a while here now, a weekly recap of the Dota 2 competitive scene. Now, obviously, I do the podcast here, and I go over a lot what happened, but this is more of a drawn out, you know, a lot of discussion. This video is, I think this week's happened to be like 12 minutes or something like that, but it's kind of, you know, it's ideally a good video for you to watch for about 12 minutes and be like, oh, I know everything that happened now this last week as a result of watching this video. So that's the content I'm actually doing for them. You can check it out on the site. There's actually a preview of it on the site as well, even if you aren't signed up. So feel free to check that out, guys. Again, go to the link that is in chat there, the Pugna link, or there's actually a link below on my channel that you can click it again. Like I said, it also supports me. It really would be appreciated. It's a win-win in a lot of ways, again, especially if you're looking to get better at some Dota here. So there you go. That was your Pugna tip of the week. Thanks to both Pugna and, of course, Chessie. Always fun to see a familiar face there in Chessie. So now this kind of leads into things I learned this week. So as time moves on here, so with this podcast, again, this is only my second episode of this podcast. I've obviously still got a lot of, improving to do, but, I think we're off to a great start. I've had a lot of fun with it so far, and hopefully you guys have been enjoying it. But, always looking for new things to do and to help keep it interesting. One thing I thought about, as a newer player and caster to the scene, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about this game. There's a lot to learn about this game. There is so much information that it's even hard for the top-tier players, even the game designers, I'm sure they don't know a lot more than you may realize when it comes to so many mechanics and just so many things that are involved in the game. And I figured it would kind of be fun to, as a segment each week, go over things that I learned from the previous week. I stream a lot. I play a lot of Dota 2. I've been doing a lot of matchmaking. For those that have been watching my grind, I've been kind of going up and down. I finally broke 3K, and I'm staying above 3K for a while now, so I hope that continues and to continue to progress. But, again, there's still so much to learn, and I felt like why not kind of go over that with you guys? So at the risk of making myself look stupid and dumb, I'm fine with that. I've always said that if me getting information out, even to just one or two people in the chat that were like, I actually didn't know that either, I'm fine with that. I'm fine taking the hit, being the scapegoat, and being called, oh my God, you're such a noob. I'm used to that, right? So some of these you may feel that way. Others you genuinely may be like, oh, I didn't know that either. And that's kind of the point. So whatever it may be, I don't have too many here to go over, but kind of ones that came to mind that I figured would make sense. So first one is Queen of Pain, level 25. So she has the 70% lifesteal talent. It actually works with Blade Mail in the sense you pop Blade Mail, the lifesteal that you get from when they damage you it actually heals you in the end. So that's why we're actually seeing some QoP players that, as of late in the competitive scene especially, they will make a priority to get Blade Mail. And again, with the level 25 talent of the 70% lifesteal on top of an Octarine core, if you eventually have one, by the late game, obviously you would. It's insane how difficult it can be to kill a Queen of Pain. So we saw a little bit more of that at the WESG, actually. TNC, they actually ran it in Game 3. If you guys missed that, by the way, holy shit, was it epic. In fact, I might have had a clip from it, from the editing I was doing. Let me see if I can pull up that clip real quickly. Did I actually get a clip of that or not? I'm not sure if I did of that specific fight, but you know what? I don't think I did, actually. Anyways, the point is, there was one point where it's like he got Yule's sceptered into the air at nearly dead, and all of a sudden he popped a Blade Mail, and then he just went back up to full life pretty quickly. So, if you ever play Queen of Pain, or you're playing against Queen of Pain, or you're watching, you're wondering why are they going to Blade Mail, at least with this new patch and everything, that I think is safe to say is one of the more specific reasons as to why they're doing it. The synergy is pretty crazy. So, there's that I learned. Underlord, a newer hero to the scene as far as competitive play goes, and in general. I've been playing a little bit of him lately, having fun with him. I'm actually enjoying him, with all the hype that he's been getting. You can cancel his Dark Rift ability. I did not know that initially, and there was specifically an instance where I was like, oh shit, I activated it. I guess we're going back to base, and it turned out that we were actually winning the fight in the end, and I ended up porting back 3 people with me. I was like, damn it. And then chat kind of blew up there by the way, you can cancel that. You know that, right? I was like, no, didn't know that. You can cancel Dark Rift. That's his ultimate. That, of course, it creates an aura around him where after 5 seconds or whatever, it ports yourself and everyone else to whatever tower you selected on. But if you just simply hit the key again, it will cancel the ability. So if you realize that that you don't want to use it anymore, you can do that. So there you go. That's something else I learned. Another thing that I learned, is I mean I kind of get this one, but still part of me is like I feel like maybe that shouldn't be the case. Necro Ultimate does not kill people through Shallow Grave. Okay. However, Coaling Blade from Axe does. Coaling Blade literally will kill you, where Necro's Ultimate will not. And let's see, Axe Dota 2. I'm gonna kind of look at the wording real quick to see if I can even make more of an understanding of it. But instantly killing an enemy unit with low health. So it does say how it instantly kills an enemy unit with low health on Axe's ability. And then you got Necro. What is the wording on Necro's ultimate? Then deals damage based on how much life. So okay, yeah. See, I guess that makes a little more sense. That it deals damage. So and obviously Shallow Grave doesn't take any damage past lethal at least. So I guess that the wording does make it make sense, but it still nonetheless was something that I did not really think too much about, and then I actually learned it. That question was brought up. I was like, you know what, is this the case? So we happened to be going up against a team that was playing a Dazzle, and I was playing Necro, and so I just happened to think about it. But there you go. Learn that too. You cannot kill people through Shallow Grave with the Necro Ultimate. And then one more thing was actually bottles. If you happen to have a bottle with a rune in it, or if you're being somebody's bottle bitch, as I like to call it, which in a game I happen to be, I was actually, my carry player was giving me his bottle to fill it up for him with the runes. You cannot actually share the runes with another person. You have to use the rune yourself. I honestly did not know that. Again, coming from Han, there's a couple of these mechanics, small things like that I kind of just assumed translated into Dota, right? But that's why I'm playing the game, though. That's why I'm investing all my time, because it's things like that. It's like, oh, you can't do that. That's interesting. But now I know for sure. But yeah, you cannot actually give the bottle to somebody else if it has a rune in it. You have to use the rune yourself before you give them the bottle. So there was that as well that I happened to learn and remember that. No, you cannot. I can guarantee you cannot, because I was actually trying to, and he made a point. The person in the game in it, he's like, you got to use the rune before you give it to me. And so I was like, oh. And so I used the rune, and oh, you're talking about something else. Okay. Anyone know if you can still use to save yourself after Necro Ultimate? No action can be taken during Necro Ultimate. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, well, that's something else. I wouldn't have known that for certain at least. So, but yeah, you're referring to something else. What's up, Alex Boy? Anyways, so that's what I learned this week in Dota 2. So hopefully, maybe it helps some of you. Maybe I look like a complete noob to you as well. Whatever it may be. Hey, I'm learning. That's the point. That's what I'm excited to be doing here in the Dota 2 scene. Excuse me. So those are things that I learned. All right, a couple more things to go over before we start really wrapping up here, because actually I don't have anybody, any whispers or anything about any call-ins that people want to do. So it looks like we might be wrapping up here in the near future. But before we do, again, a couple more things to still talk about. One being the Star Ladder Southeast Asian Qualifier preview. So let me actually pull up that real quickly. The Star Ladder event, this $300,000 tournament that's eventually going to be happening, the qualifiers for it are starting to take place. And let me actually, Star Ladder qualifiers. There we go. So we got the Star Ladder qualifiers taking place. This is the Southeast Asian region kicking off here. I believe it just started literally last night going into today. So they have a group stage. They initially had open qualifiers to get to the main qualifier portion, and now here we are in the main qualifier portion. Recognizable teams, of course, Faceless, TNC, no doubt going to get some hype now with a WESG victory. Fnatic, who the hell knows what they're going to do. They're back down to 3 players. That's something else, actually. In Your Dream, who was announced as their 4th, and he played with them at ESL 1 Genting, actually, after the event, announced that he no longer was going to be a part of Fnatic. Due to some family issues or something like that. Not exactly sure. But so the point is they're back down to 3 players with Mushi, Ohio, and Febi. So we'll see what Fnatic is able to pick up for their final two. But, you got Warriors Gaming, Unity, Execration, TNC, Mineski. I mean, these are all definitely potentially solid teams as well as Faceless. I don't know who I would select. I believe, is it only one team? Top team. Yeah, only one of these teams qualify for this event. If I had to pick one, I would honestly say Warriors Gaming. I actually really liked them at the Boston Major. They were fun to watch, and I think potentially could be a really solid team overall. So another case, again, if I had to absolutely choose Warriors Gaming, TNC is another team that is of interest because, again, of their recent WESG success. But I don't want to get oversold by that either, right? You don't want to play the card of, like, how I was just arguing that WESG is not really a very significant event yet. Oh, my God, they won the event, so they're going to be winning this now. So I still think that they're a very good team, but so is Warrior Gaming Unity. So is Faceless. So is Execration. So MVP Phoenix was originally in this event, by the way, but they were replaced by Mineski. That's just another piece of information. It's pretty obvious by now, but MVP Phoenix officially did announce that they're closing their doors with their Dota 2 team at least. So obviously, really, all their players had been stripped. There was only one player left, and at that point, it's like, why even try? So no longer the case. As far as the main event portion, the other kind of interesting thing to note about this event real quickly is the fact that Wings Gaming right now, they're the only team that's invited so far to the main event. There's going to be another team apparently. However, it's yet to be announced. Now, I believe it's going to end up being EG, mainly because if you go to the American qualifiers, EG's not in here. Obviously, DC is. EG is not. So I believe it's going to end up being EG. Why it's not announced yet is beyond me. If they're still trying to figure out details, I don't know. But I would put money on it being EG for sure. VGJ and Vitality, of course, they qualified recently for this event as well. A week ago, I believe. I believe I mentioned that in the last podcast even. So, yeah, this will be fun. So the Southeast Asia start this week. And then the American as well as the European start next week, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, American does. And the European, it looks like, does start next week as well. So these events, definitely going to start keeping an eye on these qualifiers here and how they play out for the Star Ladder Star Series, of course. So that'll be another event to look forward to, guys. A lot of Dota. I love this scene, man. I just love how much just goes on and everything that there is to do when it comes to watching a lot of Dota 2 for sure. So, all right. What else did I want to go over? Yep. Oh yeah, Wanted actually is not in the American qualifiers, by the way, for that event. I think that might be a case of this. They had their teams figured out before Wanted was created. Perhaps I don't know for sure, but actually, if you look at the American teams again real quickly. You got the 6 invited teams. Now, they did invite Team Onyx, and they were created about the same time, so maybe not. But who would you not invite over Wanted? I guess Doo-Wop would be the one that you could be like, oh, Wanted should have been in over Doo-Wop. But is that fair to Doo-Wop? Like, Doo-Wop's actually been playing in a lot of American events, and they've been participating in a lot of these American events and grinding and stuff, where Wanted literally was just created. So, I'm torn on that because part of me is like, I would like to see Wanted, and I would like to see, a great team, and they arguably are going to be a better team with their player list. But Doo-Wop has been grinding a lot. They're deserving for that reason, in my opinion, too. So, I'm fine with this decision in the end of going with Doo-Wop. But, yeah, not seeing Wanted does kind of suck at the same time. So, we'll see where Wanted ends up with their first event. Ain't going to be this one, though, from the looks of it, pending some team dropping or something like that. And I think that means we are winding down. Yeah, the one last thing, actually, I saw this earlier today on Reddit. Gabe Newell is going to do an AMA tomorrow on Reddit, apparently, at 3 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what to expect from it. Now, I was talking with people about this earlier. When Gabe Newell announces that he's doing a Reddit AMA, there has to be something, right? Like, I don't know what he's going to announce, but there's got to be some kind of announcement. It's not him just simply waking up and being like, I feel like doing an AMA. So I don't know if it would be Dota 2 related or Steam just related. Obviously, there's the speculation of Half-Life 3. That's not going to be a thing. I'm not a believer in that whatsoever. Not that I really even care, honestly. But I've even seen that being brought up. So that'll be interesting, though, to see what they do or what Gabe Newell announces. Because, again, he's going to announce something, I'm sure, when it comes to doing his AMA tomorrow. So Half-Life 4 is going to be announced. Oh, of course. He's just going to skip Half-Life 3. It's going to be like, boom, Half-Life 4. Also, one other thing before we wrap up, I know I've said this a bit here, but this low priority stuff, man, holy crap. It is, speaking of Reddit, I feel like Reddit obviously goes in waves in terms of the big discussions that they're having and the circle jerks, as it's called. I don't know. This whole low priority stuff, my take on all these players and stuff getting low, I'm not going to sit here and defend the system, that it's a perfect system and that it's great and that, it does exactly what it should be doing. Because, yes, it can be abused, I'm sure, and it probably does have its issues. And is everyone getting low priority? Do they truly deserve it? Probably not. Do I feel like a lot of these people that are getting low priority, that are having their fans defend them, don't deserve it? No, because I feel like in cases they do. I've watched a lot of Dota 2 streams, and I've watched players like RTZ play, no, what's his name? The other one. Not Snaking, wow. Weising. I've watched Weising stream before. A lot of these players that are getting these low priority games, let's not act like they're saints by any means. Let's not act like they don't talk shit ever, and they never deserve, or they're absolutely innocent in these cases. Again, I'm not saying that they deserve it, and I'm not saying that there's no abuse going on, because it does seem like that there is. I mean, there's a lot of people complaining about it lately. I feel like that it's definitely more than there should be, but there is that other side of me that's like, again, they're not saints. They probably deserve it in some sense, at least. They probably do talk enough shit to deserve it. And there's cases like, Sing Sing, I guess he goes by now. But, there's been reports in the past where people like that have actually had their viewers, report players themselves for the sake of screwing over a said player. So, I don't know. I don't have to deal with it myself in the end, because I'm both a mix. I'm not popular enough / I play too low priority, or not low priority, but I play low MMR of the 3K range. That's like no one's going to really care, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like it's one of those, like, there's a lot more to this story than a lot of these defenders are making it out to be on Reddit, at least. But hey, that's Reddit too, right? This circle jerk that goes on. All right, guys. I think that pretty much is going to cover it, though. You can't report people unless you're in the game. Oh, okay. Well, see, I didn't even know that. Anyways, I think that is going to pretty much end the podcast, though. Maybe I shouldn't have ended it on that note right there. But anyway, all right. So, the Breakdown podcast, guys, I really do appreciate you guys tuning in. Another successful show, I think, to say the least. Just about a 2-hour show here, so. And as always, having a lot of fun on the podcast here. Big shout out to my guests, both Andy Droid as well as Suns Fan, both fantastic guests to have, and both definitely doing a great job with the discussions that we had. So I really do appreciate it having them on the podcast. So it does help a lot. So big shout out, big thanks to them. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If excuse me, if you have any feedback. Either, go to the Reddit post that I made and on this week's episode, or whisper me on Twitch. There's obviously a lot of ways to get a hold of me, Twitter, whatever. Let me know your feedback if you have it. Definitely can look into that. I feel like I made some adjustments going into this show from the first episode, and much more to come. So, but again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this and for what it was, and I will see you next week here on the Breakdown with BreakyCPK every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. 2100 Central European Time. I will be here for the podcast. So until next time, guys, have a good night on the Breakdown. That was BreakyCPK. I'll see you next time.
I want to spend it right. No fear of what's to come. Just close to me.